Shocking autopsy reports of classic Hollywood actors exposes the secrets hidden beneath the glamour. From mysterious deaths to scandalous revelations, these autopsy reports reveal the untold stories of Hollywood's brightest stars. You'll be stunned by the number of shocking discoveries that will leave you speechless. Prepare yourself for a journey into the darkest side of fame, where the truth is far stranger than fiction. John Wayne. When you think of the word cowboy, there's a good chance John Wayne's name comes to mind. Wayne's iconic swagger and deep, rumbling voice made him a symbol of rugged American masculinity in the golden age of Hollywood. But behind the tough guy persona was a man whose shocking autopsy report would reveal the darker costs of a movie career and a hidden environmental disaster. John Wayne died in 1979, officially of respiratory arrest and gastric cancer. That's tragic enough, but the real shock came from an investigation into what may have caused his cancer. In the early 1980s, the families of Wayne and other actors, including Susan Hayward and director Dick Powell, began making a chilling connection. Nearly half of the cast and crew from the 1956 film The Conqueror developed cancer, and many died from it. Why? The film had been shot downwind from a U.S. nuclear test site in Nevada, only a year after multiple radioactive bombs had been detonated there. It was later revealed that one of the bombs was almost 3 times as powerful as the one dropped on Hiroshima. By 1980, 91 of the 220 people who worked on that set had developed cancer, and 46 had already died. Survivors and scientists alike believed the deaths were directly tied to radioactive fallout on location. Dr. Robert C. Pendleton, director of radiological health at the University of Utah, said that the cancer rates were so high, the connection would hold up even in a court of law. John Wayne's tough guy legacy took on new meaning. His very work environment had been lethally dangerous, and his death certificate became evidence of Hollywood's most radioactive scandal. Errol Flynn. Errol Flynn was the swashbuckling hero of Hollywood's golden age, famous for his daring sword fights and boyish charm. But Flynn's off-screen life was even wilder than any of his movie adventures. His shocking autopsy report, released after his death in 1959 at just 50 years old, painted a tragic picture of a star who lived and died too fast. Officially, Flynn died of heart failure, but the autopsy revealed a body ravaged by decades of excess. He suffered from myocardial infarction, coronary thrombosis, and severe coronary atherosclerosis. His liver showed cirrhosis and fatty degeneration, classic signs of long-term alcohol abuse. Doctors noted Flynn had been seeking medical treatment for chronic back pain, but he collapsed after receiving an injection for the pain, never to wake up. Perhaps the most astonishing detail, Flynn's blood alcohol level was a staggering 0.25%. According to medical experts, that's a level where most people would be on the verge of coma, yet Flynn's body was so accustomed to alcohol that he functioned with that much in his system. The report also noted diverticulosis of the colon, relatively minor, but yet another sign of a system under siege. In life, Flynn was the dashing rogue. In death, his body bore the scars of the lifestyle he made famous. The autopsy confirmed what Hollywood insiders already whispered. Flynn's "Live fast, die young" motto was no myth. He was a man destroyed by the very excesses that made him a legend. Ramon Novaro. Ramon Novaro was one of the silent film era's biggest stars, celebrated for his beauty and romantic leads. His life, however, ended in brutal tragedy, one that sent shockwaves through Hollywood and left a gruesome mark in the annals of celebrity crime. Novaro's shocking autopsy revealed the terrible violence he endured in his final hours. In 1968, Novaro was found dead in his Laurel Canyon home at age 69. The autopsy concluded the official cause of death was aspiration of blood due to multiple traumatic injuries of the face, nose, and mouth. In plain terms, he was beaten so severely that he choked to death on his own blood. Novaro's body bore the marks of torture and restraint. His attackers, brothers Paul and Tom Ferguson, believed he kept large amounts of cash in his home. But as the trial revealed, the motive was laced with homophobia. Novaro was targeted not just for his perceived wealth, but for being a gay man in an era when that alone could be a death sentence. The violence inflicted on Novaro, wounds, bruises, and lacerations, told a story of relentless cruelty. The celebrity press at the time sensationalized the crime, but the autopsy left no doubt about the horror of his end. Novaro, once celebrated as a symbol of romance, became a symbol of Hollywood's dangerous undercurrents and the vulnerabilities faced by those forced to hide who they were. In death, his legend took on a new, tragic dimension. William Desmond Taylor. One of Hollywood's earliest true crime mysteries, the death of William Desmond Taylor reads like a noir thriller, and his autopsy only deepened the mystery. Taylor was a respected actor and director during the silent era, but in 1922, he was found dead in his Los Angeles bungalow under bizarre circumstances. The initial reports claimed Taylor had died of natural causes. The deputy coroner on the scene even insisted the man lying face down had succumbed to a stomach hemorrhage. But as suspicion mounted, authorities conducted a more thorough examination and discovered a small bullet wound. The official autopsy listed the cause of death as a gunshot wound. The strangeness didn't end there. It took almost 12 hours for anyone to notify police, and by the time investigators arrived, the crime scene had been tampered with. Further investigation uncovered even more secrets. Taylor was living under an assumed name. His real identity was William Cunningham Dean Tanner, a man who had abandoned his family in the East to start anew in Hollywood. Theories abounded. Was he killed by the jealous mother of a young actress? By a scorned lover? No one was ever charged, and in a final twist, LAPD records about the case disappeared in the 1970s. The autopsy told part of the story, but the rest remains lost to Hollywood legend. Sal Mineo. Sal Mineo was once considered the crown prince of Hollywood's golden youth, a breakout star in Rebel Without a Cause alongside James Dean, his expressive eyes and emotional depth captivating audiences and critics alike. But behind the glamour, Mineo's life was a series of struggles against typecasting, societal prejudice, and his own demons. The shocking details of his death and autopsy would only add another layer to his legend. By the 1970s, Mineo's career had slowed, but he was rebuilding his reputation on stage, eager for a comeback. On February 12, 1976, after a successful rehearsal for the play P.S. Your Cat is Dead, Sal returned to his West Hollywood apartment. As he exited his car, tragedy struck. He was attacked by a mugger, stabbed once in the chest with a large knife. The blow punctured his heart, causing massive internal hemorrhaging. Neighbors heard his cries for help and rushed to his side, but within minutes, the 37-year-old star was dead. Mineo's autopsy report provided a grim but detailed narrative of his last moments. The single stab wound had been so precise and forceful that survival was impossible. The report noted Mineo's excellent physical health otherwise, no drugs or alcohol in his system, contrary to the rumors that would follow. Investigators initially suspected a hate crime due to Mineo's open sexuality, a rarity in that era, but eventually determined it was a random robbery. Lionel Ray Williams, a pizza delivery man, was convicted of the crime 2 years later, but speculation about motives never truly faded. Sal Mineo's murder was a shocking loss for Hollywood. His autopsy closed the case medically, but the emotional resonance of his death, a symbol of promise lost and a warning about the vulnerability of fame, remains undiminished. Clark Gable. Clark Gable, forever immortalized as Rhett Butler in Gone with the Wind, was the undisputed king of Hollywood's golden age. His charisma, masculinity, and dashing good looks set the template for generations of leading men. Yet, beneath the surface, Gable was a complex, haunted figure whose shocking autopsy exposed a lifetime of personal heartbreak, punishing habits, and the relentless pressure of living up to his mythic image. By the late 1950s, Gable's health had begun to falter. The pain of losing his beloved wife, Carol Lombard, in a plane crash during World War II, had left deep emotional scars. Friends and colleagues noted that Gable, once robust and energetic, became prone to depression, drinking, and chain smoking. He poured himself into work as a distraction, and his last film, The Misfits, co-starring Marilyn Monroe, was grueling. Despite doctors' warnings, Gable insisted on doing his own stunts, determined to prove he was still Hollywood's leading man. On November 6, 1960, Gable suffered a massive heart attack. He lingered in the hospital for days, but passed away on November 16 at age 59. The autopsy revealed advanced coronary artery disease, severe atherosclerosis, and evidence of previous silent heart attacks. Undetected damage that had accumulated over years. His heart was enlarged and weakened, and his lungs bore the scars of decades of heavy smoking. There was also evidence of hypertension, another silent killer common in high-stress lives. Many believed that Gable's death was hastened by emotional trauma, stress from filming, and his stubborn refusal to slow down. The man who had captivated millions died, as he lived, on his own terms. Driven, uncompromising, and hiding pain behind that trademark smile. In the end, Clark Gable's autopsy told a story not just of physical decline, but of a giant brought low by a lifetime of loss and unrelenting expectation. He remains an icon, but his fate is a sobering reminder that even legends have breaking points. William Holden. William Holden was the epitome of understated cool, a star whose rugged charm, naturalistic acting, and intense presence helped redefine American masculinity in films like Sunset Boulevard, Stalag 17, and The Bridge on the River Kwai. But Holden's life behind the scenes was filled with turbulence, loneliness, and ultimately, a shocking end that was as sad as it was avoidable. In his prime, Holden was known for his professionalism and generosity, but also for his fondness for hard drinking and his increasingly solitary lifestyle. By the early 1980s, friends had become concerned about his isolation and the amount of alcohol he was consuming. Despite his enduring fame, Holden shunned the Hollywood party circuit, preferring quiet nights at home or adventurous travels far from the limelight. On November 16, 1981, Holden's body was discovered in his Santa Monica apartment. The initial news shocked the world. A screen legend dead at 63. But as details emerged from the autopsy report, the story became even more tragic. The cause of death was exsanguination, severe blood loss, resulting from a deep cut on his forehead. The injury had occurred several days earlier, apparently after he slipped on a rug while intoxicated and struck his head on a table. Disoriented and alone, Holden failed to seek medical help. The autopsy revealed a high blood alcohol content, confirming that he was intoxicated at the time of his fatal fall. Perhaps the most heartbreaking revelation was that Holden might have survived had he reached out for help or been found sooner. Instead, Hollywood's beloved everyman died alone, his absence unnoticed for days, until a concerned friend contacted police. The world mourned not only the loss of an Oscar-winning actor, but the loneliness that often comes with fame. Holden's autopsy stands as a somber warning about addiction, isolation, and the private struggles that can lurk behind even the brightest public personas. Thomas Ince. Thomas Ince is a name less familiar to modern moviegoers, but to those who know Hollywood's early history, he was one of the true visionaries, a director, producer, and studio founder whose innovations helped shape the industry itself. Yet, Ince's legacy is forever shadowed by his mysterious and shocking death in 1924, a case that spawned conspiracy theories and left the public with more questions than answers. Ince was invited to celebrate his 42nd birthday, aboard the yacht of publishing titan William Randolph Hearst. Also on board were stars like Charlie Chaplin and gossip columnist Luella Parsons. The weekend party promised luxury and intrigue, but it ended in tragedy. Ince suddenly fell gravely ill during the trip and was rushed ashore, where he died the next day. The official cause of death was listed as heart failure due to acute indigestion, but the lack of a thorough autopsy and a suspiciously hasty cremation ignited rumors that something more sinister had occurred. Whispers in Hollywood circles claimed that Ince had been shot, accidentally or otherwise, during a confrontation involving Hearst, who was supposedly jealous over his mistress Marion Davies' alleged flirtation with Chaplin. Some claimed Hearst, intending to shoot Chaplin, hit Ince instead. Others suggested Ince's sudden illness was due to poisoning. The official investigation was perfunctory at best, and no proper autopsy was ever conducted. Ince's widow was said to have received a generous settlement from Hearst soon after. With the evidence quickly buried, literally and figuratively, rumors ran rampant for decades. The lack of an autopsy, the conflicting eyewitness stories, and the involvement of Hollywood's most powerful figures only deepened the mystery. To this day, Ince's death is cited as Hollywood's first great unsolved scandal, proof that in the world of fame, power can erase the truth. Ince's shocking demise remains a cautionary tale about how easily the facts can vanish, leaving only legend in their wake. Johnny Stompanado. Though Johnny Stompanado was not a movie star in the traditional sense, his shocking death became a pivotal chapter in Hollywood lore, one that exposed the intersection of celebrity, violence, and scandal in the public eye. Known primarily as a mob enforcer and the notorious boyfriend of screen siren Lana Turner, Stompanado's violent demise in 1958 was the talk of America, and his autopsy report only intensified the controversy. Stompanado's relationship with Turner was tempestuous, marked by jealousy, possessiveness, and well-documented incidents of physical abuse. Hollywood insiders whispered about his ties to the Los Angeles underworld, and Turner's friends and family were acutely aware of the danger he posed. On April 4, 1958, the tension exploded. During a heated argument in Turner's Beverly Hills home, her 14-year-old daughter, Cheryl Crane, intervened, allegedly to protect her mother from a physical attack. Stompanado was stabbed in the abdomen with a kitchen knife. The autopsy revealed a single, deep wound that severed his hepatic vein and liver, causing massive internal bleeding and death within minutes. The force of the stab, administered by a teenager, astonished the coroner, and the report described the wound as catastrophic and unsurvivable. There were no defensive wounds on Stompanado's hands, consistent with the testimony that he never saw the knife coming. The case gripped the nation. A movie star's home transformed into a crime scene, a teenager thrust into the role of protector, and lurid headlines splashed across every tabloid. At the inquest, Cheryl's actions were ruled justifiable homicide, an act of defense against ongoing violence. Yet, rumors persisted for years. Did Lana herself wield the knife? Was there a cover-up? The autopsy provided clarity on the cause of death, but could not answer the questions of intent, fear, or family loyalty. Stompanado's murder laid bare the dangers lurking behind Hollywood's glamorous facade, and became a chilling symbol of how quickly the lines between celebrity and tragedy can blur. Rock Hudson. Rock Hudson's legacy is inseparable from the glamour of classic Hollywood. His square jaw, gentle eyes, and romantic screen persona made him one of the era's most beloved leading men. But his death in 1985 would become one of the most important and shocking in entertainment history, exposing secrets that changed public perceptions forever. The details revealed by his autopsy, and by his courageous decision to go public in his final months, transformed the conversation about AIDS, privacy, and the hidden struggles of stardom. Throughout the 1950s and 60s, Hudson's name was synonymous with romantic comedies and dramas. Yet his off-screen life was tightly controlled by studio bosses, determined to protect their investment. Hudson was gay at a time when such a truth could end a career. He lived in fear of scandal, enduring arranged dates, secret relationships, and a constant, suffocating need for discretion. By the early 1980s, Hudson's health began to decline. He appeared gaunt and frail, his features altered by disease. In 1984, while filming the TV series Dynasty, he struggled to speak and perform, leading to rumors about his health. In July 1985, Hudson announced publicly that he was suffering from AIDS, becoming the first major celebrity to do so. The news sent shockwaves around the world, shattering stereotypes and forcing Hollywood and the public to confront the realities of a deadly epidemic. Hudson died on October 2, 1985, at age 59. His autopsy report confirmed the cause of death as AIDS-related complications, including pneumonia and Kaposi's sarcoma. The medical examiner documented dramatic weight loss, severe immune deficiency, and opportunistic infections that had ravaged his body. There was nothing Hollywood about the details, only the harsh reality of a disease that, until then, had been widely misunderstood and stigmatized. Rock Hudson's death was not just a loss for film lovers. It marked a turning point in history. His autopsy made the private public, and, in doing so, saved countless lives by raising awareness, spurring funding for research, and helping to break the silence surrounding AIDS. The courage he showed at the end ensured his true legacy would be even larger than any role he played on screen. Brandon Lee. Brandon Lee, son of the legendary Bruce Lee, was on the cusp of stardom when his life was tragically and shockingly cut short during the filming of The Crow in 1993. Brandon's death became an instant media firestorm, not only because of its eerie echoes of his father's mysterious passing, but also due to the disturbing and preventable circumstances revealed by his autopsy and the subsequent investigation. Brandon Lee was just 28 years old, an age when most actors are still chasing their breakout role. For Brandon, The Crow was to be that moment, a moody, supernatural thriller with a demanding, emotionally raw lead performance. The film's set, known for its gothic atmosphere, would become the site of Hollywood's most infamous on-set accident. On March 31, 1993, during a late-night shoot in Wilmington, North Carolina, Brandon was filming a scene in which his character is shot by intruders. The prop gun, meant to fire harmless blanks, instead fired a real bullet. Unknown to the cast and crew, a fragment from a dummy round had become lodged in the barrel after a previous scene. When the blank cartridge was fired, it propelled the metal fragment with lethal force into Brandon's abdomen. The autopsy revealed catastrophic internal injuries, severe bleeding, damage to his liver and major blood vessels, and no chance of survival without immediate, specialized trauma care. Despite hours of emergency surgery, Brandon Lee was pronounced dead. The subsequent investigation exposed a series of safety lapses and cost-cutting measures on the set. Hollywood was forced to confront the dangers of prop firearms, and Lee's death led to sweeping reforms in industry safety protocols. Yet, for fans and friends, the loss was unbearably personal. Brandon Lee had inherited both his father's talent and his fate, a rising star gone far too soon, immortalized by a cruel twist of chance and negligence. The final lines of the autopsy, cold and clinical, belied the cultural and emotional shockwaves of Brandon's death. His legacy endures not just in the haunting beauty of his final film, but in the reforms that made Hollywood safer for those who followed. James Dean. James Dean remains one of Hollywood's most enduring icons, forever young, forever rebellious, and forever frozen in time as the tragic hero of Rebel Without a Cause, East of Eden, and Giant. His image, leather jacket, brooding gaze, cigarette dangling from his lips, epitomized a new kind of masculinity and vulnerability. But it was his sudden, violent death at age 24 that cemented his legend, and the shocking details from his autopsy transformed a star into a myth. Dean's passion for speed and racing was as intense as his commitment to acting. On September 30th, 1955, while en route to a race in Salinas, California, Dean drove his new Porsche 550 Spyder, dubbed Little Bastard, with his mechanic Rolf Wutherich as passenger. On a lonely stretch of Highway 466, another car turned in front of them. Dean, unable to avoid the collision, struck the side of the other vehicle at high speed. The scene was grisly. Dean's car was mangled. He was trapped inside with catastrophic injuries. The autopsy revealed the extent of the trauma: a broken neck, numerous fractures to the arms and legs, and massive internal injuries to the chest and abdomen. The most devastating was a ruptured aorta and crushed thoracic cavity, causing immediate, unsurvivable hemorrhaging. Dean was pronounced dead on arrival at the hospital, but his body already showed the telltale signs of fatal trauma. The report noted he had no alcohol or drugs in his system, quashing rumors of recklessness beyond his love of fast cars. Still, the car itself became shrouded in legend. Rumors of a curse attached to the wreck, with subsequent owners suffering misfortune or death. James Dean's autopsy read like the closing chapter of a Greek tragedy: talent and potential cut down by fate in an instant. His death shocked the world, fueling a fascination with the dangers of youth, fame, and the search for identity. More than 6 decades later, Dean's image endures, unaged and undiminished, his story a cautionary tale and a symbol of the price paid for living too fast, too soon. Warren Oates. Warren Oates was the quintessential anti-hero of 1970s American cinema. With his weathered face, sharp gaze, and lived-in performances, Oates brought a sense of authenticity to roles in films like The Wild Bunch, Bring Me the Head of Alfredo Garcia, and Two Lane Blacktop. Unlike the polished matinee idols of previous decades, Oates was a character actor who became a cult figure by embodying the restless, rough-edged spirit of a changing Hollywood. Yet, behind the screen persona, his life was marked by excess and stress, and the shocking details of his autopsy painted a sobering picture of the toll such a lifestyle can take. By the early 1980s, Oates's relentless work schedule and hard-partying reputation had caught up with him. Friends described him as generous, deeply committed to his craft, but also someone who rarely turned down a drink or a late night. He often worked on multiple projects at once, pushing his body and mind to the limit. On April 3, 1982, Oates died unexpectedly at the age of 53. The news stunned Hollywood. He was still in demand, and many expected he would continue acting for years to come. The autopsy report identified the cause of death as a massive heart attack. But the details were even more distressing. Oates' heart was enlarged, and his arteries were severely clogged, a clear result of years of high blood pressure, heavy drinking, smoking, and the stress that comes with a life spent on the road and under bright lights. There were also hints that the physical demands of his work, constant travel, irregular hours, and the emotional weight of intense roles may have exacerbated his condition. The autopsy did not find illicit drugs, but the cumulative effect of years of substance use was obvious. Oates' death is a classic Hollywood cautionary tale, a reminder that creative fire often burns hot and fast, leaving little left for longevity. The raw realism he brought to his characters came at a cost, and his shocking, premature death remains a testament to the dangers lurking beneath the glamour and excitement of a career in film. Heath Ledger. Heath Ledger's legacy is one of both brilliance and heartbreak. A supremely talented actor whose willingness to disappear into his roles made him unforgettable, but whose sudden, shocking death at 28 left the world wondering what might have been. Though not a classic-era actor, Ledger's fate echoed the tragic pattern of so many Hollywood legends before him, and the details from his autopsy painted a stark portrait of the dangers that accompany fame, pressure, and pain. Ledger first gained international attention with films like 10 Things I Hate About You and A Knight's Tale, but it was his mature performances in Brokeback Mountain and, most famously, as the Joker in The Dark Knight that revealed his extraordinary range. Friends and colleagues noted that Ledger was a method actor, immersing himself completely in every role. His intensity, while fueling his art, also led to physical and emotional exhaustion. In the months leading up to his death, Ledger struggled with insomnia and anxiety, especially as he juggled the demands of his career and fatherhood. On January 22, 2008, he was found unresponsive in his New York apartment. The world reeled as the news broke. The autopsy and toxicology report would confirm what many feared. Ledger had died from an accidental overdose of prescription medications. The drugs included a mixture of painkillers, anti-anxiety medications, and sleeping aids. There was no evidence of illegal drugs or intent to harm himself. Rather, it was the tragic result of seeking relief from chronic exhaustion, pain, and the pressures of life in the public eye. The cold, clinical language of the autopsy, detailing dosages and combinations, couldn't capture the grief that rippled across the globe. Ledger's passing became a cultural touchstone, spurring new discussions about prescription drug safety, mental health, and the relentless pace of celebrity. The haunting brilliance of his final performance, for which he would posthumously win an Academy Award, is forever entwined with the sense of loss. Heath Ledger's autopsy didn't just mark the end of a rising star. It signaled the high cost of genius in an unforgiving world. Gene Kelly. Gene Kelly is forever associated with grace, athleticism, and that legendary rain-soaked dance number in Singin' in the Rain. He was more than just a dancer. He was a director, choreographer, and actor whose charm and creative vision redefined Hollywood musicals for generations. But behind the infectious smile and exuberant routines, Kelly's autopsy report told a quieter, sadder story. A story about the toll a life of ceaseless movement and perfectionism can take. Kelly's career spanned decades, beginning in the 1940s and extending well into television and stage in later years. He revolutionized dance on film by blending ballet, tap, and athletic moves, insisting that dancers, and leading men, could be tough and masculine, as well as graceful. His work ethic was legendary. He often rehearsed and shot for hours until every move was flawless, sometimes pushing his body well beyond healthy limits. As Kelly aged, the consequences of that relentless physicality began to surface. Old injuries haunted him, worn knees, damaged joints, persistent back pain, and his body bore the scars of a lifetime of leaps, spins, and stunts, performed without the safety standards or recovery periods available to dancers today. Despite his declining health, Kelly rarely slowed down, appearing in interviews, television specials, and even directing late into his 70s. When he passed away in 1996, at the age of 83, the immediate cause of death was complications from a series of strokes. The autopsy detailed the impact of high blood pressure, cardiovascular disease, and the physical degradation from decades of athletic performance. Muscles that had once powered legendary routines were now weakened. Joints showed evidence of chronic inflammation and degeneration. Friends remembered how Kelly sometimes hid his discomfort, unwilling to let anything dim the image he'd worked so hard to create. The final verdict of Kelly's autopsy was neither scandalous nor sudden, but it underscored a truth too often hidden in show business: that the pursuit of art at the highest level exacts a quiet, enduring price. Gene Kelly's dazzling legacy remains, but the reality of his physical decline is a sobering reminder that even legends are not immune to the passage of time. William Powell. William Powell was the embodiment of wit, sophistication, and enduring class on the silver screen. Best known for his unforgettable role as Nick Charles in the Thin Man series, Powell's urbane style, rapid-fire banter, and dry humor made him a staple of Hollywood's golden age. Off-screen, however, Powell faced trials that few ever knew about, his grace and poise in public masking a story of hidden suffering and remarkable resilience, as revealed by his autopsy. Powell's career began in the silent film era and flourished through the transition to talkies. He was twice nominated for an Academy Award and remained in demand for over 3 decades. But his personal life was marked by loss and health crises. He suffered the tragic early death of his only son, and his third wife, Diana Lewis, described him as a man of deep feeling and great inner strength. Perhaps most astonishing was Powell's battle with cancer. Diagnosed with rectal cancer in 1938, he underwent aggressive surgery and experimental radiation treatments at a time when both were crude and perilous by modern standards. Miraculously, Powell survived, a feat attributed to both the skill of his doctors and his own determination. He kept his illness private, telling few friends and refusing to let it impact his work, even as he endured pain and side effects in silence. Powell's later years were quieter, spent mostly in Palm Springs, where he enjoyed painting, gardening, and reading. When he died in 1984 at the age of 91, the autopsy listed heart failure as the immediate cause. But it also revealed the long-term effects of his earlier battle: extensive internal scarring from surgeries and radiation, and a body that had weathered more than most ever knew. Powell's ability to face adversity privately while maintaining his elegant public persona is part of what made him a Hollywood legend. His autopsy did not reveal scandal or excess, but rather a testament to endurance, courage, and quiet dignity. In the end, William Powell's legacy is not only in the charm he brought to the screen, but also in the strength he showed in life's hardest moments. George Reeves. George Reeves soared to fame in the 1950s as television's original Superman, a role that turned him into a household name and a hero for millions of children across America. Yet behind the cape and iconic S-shield, Reeves' life was marked by frustration, heartbreak, and controversy. The shocking circumstances of his death and the revelations in his autopsy would create one of Hollywood's most enduring mysteries. On the night of June 16, 1959, Reeves was found dead in his bedroom, a single gunshot wound to his head. Police quickly ruled his death a suicide, noting that Reeves had been despondent over his stalled career, typecasting, and failed relationships. Yet, the evidence and the autopsy raised troubling questions that continue to spark debate more than 6 decades later. The autopsy confirmed the bullet had entered through the right temple and exited at the back of his head. There were high levels of alcohol and tranquilizers in his system, but not enough to render him incapacitated. More troubling were the bruises discovered on his body, specifically on his face and chest, along with multiple bullet holes found in the room's floor and ceiling. Friends and some investigators questioned why Reeves, an experienced marksman, would have fired more than once if intending to take his own life. The absence of fingerprints on the gun further muddied the picture. Rumors swirled of a love triangle involving Reeves, his fiancée Leonore Lemon, and his former lover Tony Mannix, the wife of a powerful MGM executive. Some speculated that Reeves was murdered, either out of jealousy or as part of a mob-related cover-up. Others believed he was simply a victim of despair, unable to escape the shadow of his most famous role. Despite multiple investigations and books on the subject, no definitive answer has ever emerged. Reeves's autopsy brought to light physical evidence that seemed to contradict the official story, leaving the door open for conspiracy theories and speculation. In death as in life, George Reeves was larger than life, a hero caught in a mystery as complex as any comic book plot, his fate forever entwined with the legend of Superman. Montgomery Clift. Montgomery Clift was the original tortured artist of Hollywood, a sensitive, brooding, and undeniably magnetic presence on screen, in classics like A Place in the Sun, From Here to Eternity, and Judgment at Nuremberg. His ability to project raw emotion and vulnerability revolutionized film acting and inspired an entire generation. But his off-screen life was a haunting mirror of the pain he often portrayed. The shocking details revealed by his autopsy only deepened the sense of tragedy surrounding his legend. Clift's career skyrocketed in the late 1940s, his unconventional beauty and introspective style captivating both critics and audiences. Yet, from the start, he struggled with anxiety and self-doubt, often retreating from Hollywood's relentless spotlight. Everything changed in 1956, when a car accident outside Elizabeth Taylor's home left Clift with a broken nose, shattered jaw, and facial scars that required extensive reconstructive surgery. Though he miraculously returned to work, the trauma marked a turning point, physically and emotionally. Plagued by chronic pain from his injuries, Clift grew dependent on painkillers, sleeping pills, and alcohol. His health and career spiraled as he fought depression, addiction, and a deep sense of isolation, compounded by the pressures of concealing his sexuality in a conservative era. By the mid-1960s, Clift was a shadow of his former self, working sporadically and suffering from malnutrition, fatigue, and liver damage. On July 23, 1966, Clift died alone in his New York townhouse at just 45 years old. The autopsy listed the cause of death as a heart attack brought on by occlusive coronary artery disease. But the deeper story was clear. Years of substance abuse, malnutrition, and untreated pain had ravaged his body. The medical examiner also noted old fractures, severe liver deterioration, and scarring from multiple surgeries. Friends described his final years as a slow suicide, yet Clift's vulnerability, honesty, and courage remain legendary. His autopsy was not just a medical report, but a testament to the hidden suffering endured by so many artists. In the end, Montgomery Clift's life and death are a poignant reminder that greatness often comes at a devastating personal cost, and that some wounds, even in Hollywood, never truly heal. Hollywood is a place of dreams, but as we've seen, its shadows run deep. The lives and deaths of these classic actors remind us that behind the glamour are real people with real struggles, some ending in ways more dramatic than any film. If you were surprised by the stories in shocking autopsy reports of classic Hollywood actors, let us know your thoughts in the comments below. Don't forget to hit the like button, share this video with fellow movie lovers, and subscribe to our channel for more incredible, true Hollywood stories. Until next time, stay curious, and remember, sometimes the truth is stranger than fiction.